Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now, a while back I showed you how to restore a vintage Masters of the Universe snake mounting, and also how to make your own versions of the wrist restraints, which are often broken and missing. Now, in that video I didn't actually have any of the original wrist restraints, so I just made these completely from scratch using bits of Lego and other bits and bobs. And I really actually do like the ones that I made because they're much more sort of usable than the original ones. But since I did that video, I have now managed to pick up an original wrist restraint, but as you can see, it is broken in pretty much the way every single wrist restraint is broken. The end is snapped off. So today I'm going to show you how to repair an original wrist restraint if you have them in this condition. So let's get started. Here is an original wrist restraint, and pretty much every one I've seen has been snapped in exactly the same spot at the base of the chain, and that's because this little area here sort of plugs into snake mounting, and it sort of attaches like so to the rest of the chain. And because these chains sort of come out of snake mounting at a right angle, if you put any pressure on them, it puts pressure on this point, and that's where it snaps. And it really is the most common thing I've seen on these. Every single one has been snapped at this point. Now, I reckon this is fixable. I've not tried it yet, but it certainly looks like something that we can fix. So let's get straight on and see what we can do about repairing this broken chain link. These are the little clips that you're left with when the wrist restraints break, and these are actually relatively easy to find because these are generally left in the front of the play set, and I've had a couple of them where they've just been stuck in the front. And this is what we're going to use as our sort of starting point. Now you can see both of these have slightly different amounts of damage on the back. They've snapped pretty much in the same place, but just slightly sort of, one's a bit neater than the other, and one of the fronts has been chewed as well. So I think we're going to use the better one as our starting point. And the first thing we need to do is actually remove all the remnants of the last bit of the chain link that's there and make a nice flat surface. I've got a pair of plastic nippers here. I'm going to very carefully cut off the remains and make a nice flat surface. You can see there, that's now nice and flat. And now we can start modifying this section to try and fit this area back inside it. The chain itself has also snapped and has last little bits of another chain link left there, and we're going to remove those as well. So again, just with the plastic nippers, I'm going to cut those off sort of neatly either side, so we're left with basically one flat chain link, because the plan is to cut a hole into this little peg section or little clip section, so that we can then insert this part of the chain link in and glue it in place. So it's going to be a fairly fiddly job, but I think we can certainly get a little groove cut in there that this will fit into. So let's get started on that. To cut the hole, I'm actually going to start by drilling a few little holes, and I'm going to be using my pin vise again, and I've taken out the 1.6mm drill bit. So it's the largest drill bit that came in this little set, because that matches pretty much the thickness of the little bit of chain link. You see it's just about the same thickness, so it's always worth picking a drill bit that sort of matches what you're working to. Now on this you can see where I've cut these little bit of chain link off. I'm going to drill a hole at the top of that and at the bottom of that, and then one in the middle, but just go slowly and take your time when using something like this, and it should go fairly neatly. And I've only got to go in a couple of millimetres because there's only about 2mm worth of plastic there that you can drill into. So let's drill a little hole like that. So there's the first hole, and I'll drill another one at the bottom of the area where I cut. Like so, and then I'm going to do one more in the middle. So you can see I've now got 3 holes. They don't matter if they don't particularly line up. I think we can sort of still work with that. And now what I need to do is cut out the area in between. And to do that, I'm just going to use a knife and then carefully cut away the bits that are sort of left in between the holes. can see it looks more like a groove now. I'm going to just keep on modifying this a bit until I'm happy with the shape. I've now modified the little clip piece to have quite a sort of neat little groove in there, and I'm hoping that the end part of the chain should just slot in place, which it does seem to. I think that's going to look pretty reasonable. It's always going to be a little bit of a weak point because you can still sort of pull down on this and it will snap again, but for display purposes it's going to work really nicely, and you wouldn't actually be able to tell that this has broken at any point. So now we've got to glue this in place. I'm thinking maybe just a bit of super glue will do the job, if not maybe a bit of serious glue, but let's start by trying with a bit of super glue, as you can see here. So I'm going to just drop a tiny amount onto the end of this chain link. That should be enough. And then push this into place, and we'll let that set for a couple of hours, just so that we know that it's really sort of firmly set. But that should work really quite well. I've let the super glue go off now for an hour or so, and it looks like it has set pretty firmly. You can see that it's not too bad. Obviously it's going to break if you put too much pressure on it, but then the original one would have broken, so I think that's going to be about as good a fix as I can get. So let's give this a go on Snake Mountain. We'll put it into the slot on Snake Mountain and see what it looks like. So I've just unclipped one of the ones that I made in the previous videos. Now, as I showed in the previous videos, the best way to do this is actually to push the clip from the back. If you pull from the front, you're liable to break them. And I think that's possibly more likely what happened with these, that people pulled from the front and that snapped it. So we're just going to slot this into Snake Mountain. And you can see that clips in really nicely, and looks like it should have done when the Snake Mountain was originally sold. And you can see you can put a fair bit of pressure on it and it's not going to break and rotate around. But if you want to remove this from the playset, then push on the back of the clip and it comes out really easily. Obviously I think these ones that I made are a little bit better because the chains actually dangle properly and it just looks a little bit more exciting. But if you want to keep it all original, then this is the sort of thing you need to do, and it's a fairly straightforward fix. It's always going to be a little bit brittle, as I've said, but it certainly does the job. So if you need to fix your wrist restraints on Snake Mountain, that is how I would suggest doing it. I do need to say a big thank you to Przemysław Bukowski, who very kindly sent me the broken version of this wrist restraint, which is the one I have repaired here. So big thank you to him. I hope this video has been of interest to you, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.